Hi everyone. So for this video, we're going to start with a short recap of some of the things that we learned. So for those of you who didn't quite grasp fully what happened in the previous lesson, maybe the first 2 to 3 minutes, you can pay particular attention. Otherwise, those of you who are moving on, you're already okay with the concept of the concentric ring model, what have you, can move on to about 2 to 3 minutes into the time side. So anyway, so when we talk about development in a country, the urban development of a country, I think what we talked about in class was that it will be uneven. And the reason for its unevenness is based on different conditions. For example, certain things cannot be next to one another, certain things should be next to one another, and the availability of resources, things like the infrastructure and all those other kind of things. Yeah. So when we take a look, I'm not going to go through some of the basic slides. When we take a look at particularly things like this, as already mentioned and highlighted in class, this is the less economically developed country. The uneven distribution is first and foremost an outcome of inability or insufficient resources to uh, ensure even spread of infrastructure. Yeah. So if there is no way for them to have an even spread of infrastructure because of limited resources, what happens therefore, they will need to prioritize which is the area where they will channel their materials, their infrastructure, higher quality building materials, what have you. So assuming the starting point will be the CBD, the starting point is always the CBD because that's where, presumably based on history, based on preference, based on whatever it is, this is where the businesses have chosen to set up. It could be that it's nearest to the river. It could be that it is somewhere that's accessible. The roads, the terrain is flatter. It's easier to develop. So it's the highest demand. Businesses like that area for them to be able to set up. So with them setting it up there, so businesses, retail, offices, headquarters, what have you, they are all located here. This means there'll be the highest demand. And because of that, the cost of living, the price of the land, sorry, not cost of living, price of land will be definitely the highest, right? The cost of land. Yeah. So immediately next to it, the people who definitely want the highest demand for it, the people who are willing to pay an additional premium to live in a particular location will be those who want to have easy access, right? They are already the people who are high quality housing, means the people who can afford it. High quality need not be the super high end, super expensive houses, but at the very least, solid, proper housing. Yeah, people who can afford this typically, of course, means slightly higher in income as an outcome, or maybe there's a bit of a stereotype, slightly higher education, slightly higher skill level. So they are the ones who are most likely to work at the CBD, right? And if that's where they're choosing to work, therefore, they will want to live somewhere nearby because this is the area which also has proper infrastructure. Yeah, because it's right next to it. The government can also dedicate the materials, what have you, into that particular zone. And when they do so, that means the area immediately next to CBD would be the high quality housing. And then it goes further and further away with the quality getting worse and worse and worse. Because this poor quality yet permanent housing, it means the infrastructure may be more limited, right? Their transport, they will need to then you find a transport in order for them to get there because these are the areas that is of lower demand, hence the cost will be cheaper, hence people can afford to live there. Then of course the one furthest away, this will be like I think got one group mentioned the in a way like the unwanted because they are far away, easy first to die in case of war, right? But the idea behind this is correct lah. They are relegated to the far end because it is an area that is of lowest demand. People will choose to stay there. Yeah. Then we move on. When we talk about this, right? Or maybe I should also highlight a couple of things. If you see this model, the easiest way to look at it is just circles. But of course, you also know, especially in less developed country, they're also big on secondary industry, right? Besides just primary, of course, that's where agriculture comes in. That will be more rural. In a city, more likely than not, it will be secondary industry. So there is definitely modern factories, but take a look at where the factories are located. I think most of you correctly identified. high quality housing, they won't want to be in within the factories because pollution and all that, right? So it is located next to the poor quality housing and the shantytown settlements because again, oops, employment. And there's also a push factor between these two being overlapping. They don't want that. Yeah, because of pollution, noise, what have you. Yeah. Then we go on to talk about the Burgess concentric ring model. Now, this one is slightly different. This one presumes that, yeah, there you go. This one presumes that this is a developed country based on a very old developed city, but nevertheless developed at that point in time, meaning they are already able to afford sufficient, not say best, but sufficient infrastructure everywhere. So if everywhere you're able to afford to proper infrastructure, if this were to be the city right in the center there, I hope you can see over here. If this is to be the city, people who can afford it would rather live elsewhere, which is at this far side, the very far outside there. Why? Because there's already infrastructure. The quality of life is not compromised, right? Quality of life, not compromised. By the way, I'm doing this. Please also compromise. Please also record in your own notes, okay? Yeah. Then after that, because there's also infrastructure, transport also means it is accessible to go to work. So if they have a choice, they would rather be somewhere where it is far away from all the hustle and bustle, right? This is where all the congestion will take place. This is where all the pollution will take place, right? This is where, if say for example, ease of access, maybe even some mini factories will be located nearby. So what happens? This one, therefore, the one immediately next to it is where low cost housing is found. And with low cost housing being found there, there's no real reason for them to actually have factories being located further away from them. They might as well just put the factory right next to the offices. Yeah, so again, this one will be where the factories are found. So you can see here, there's also some positive benefits to this. The fact that the offices are right next to the factories, it means that easy coordination, right? Presumably the headquarters is in the offices, then the factories are the one that's making it. They're right next to each other. And there's no worry about, oh, the pollution and whatnot. All the rich people don't want to live there. They're not living there anyway. They're living further away. Okay. So we move on. This is effectively what it will look like in terms of, sorry, this is the developed country one. This is the less developed country one. Yeah. So you can see this zone of transition, typically where you find some of the slums, typically where you find most of the factories. Yeah, so what happens is you can see it goes further away, the quality of housing gets better and better and better. These are the people who can afford it. Yeah. And chang chang, even infrastructure, transport is available. I don't know why the box looks like this. Hopefully it looks better on your slide. So let's take a look at some of the terminology. Because the idea behind this models, right, we assume it's fixed. Yeah, that, oh, this is where rich people stay, this is where poor people stay, full stop. But of course, that's not true. You can tell from the dynamics of living in the city that people can move from one location to another. Right? There are factors that make people want to move out from here, factors that make people get attracted to this area, maybe higher income, maybe new spots get opened up, and they get opened up for a reason. Yeah. So as we take a look at the movement of people, let's consider back the process of urbanization, which is the increase in proportion of people living in urban areas. Right now, I won't get the chance to do this as an activity with you guys. But imagine, why is it people are moving from rural to city? I think quite straightforward is because of urbanization. Then we consider, in that case, why would people in the city move out to the suburbs? Yeah, remember the context. Less developed country will gradually become developed country. Yeah, as they become more and more developed, the same mindset does happen, right? They are able to afford better infrastructure. They don't see the real demand or need to live right next to the city. They might as well move away. Quality of life is not affected. This is called suburbanization. Yeah. The unfortunate outcome, however, there are also people who move fully out. all the way into the rural areas. Means they cannot take it anymore. City areas are just too messed up. Can you imagine like all those rich people in LA where they live in their houses right next to the mountains, they can see the sea and everything, right? Why is it that they're doing all that? They're going all the way into a rural space, not even anywhere near urban. Yeah, they want the better view, they want the better quality of life. This is considered counter-urbanization. Effectively, it's like the opposite of urbanization. They're moving fully out because they cannot take it anymore. They want to get out of the space. Yeah. So as if effectively what happens is there will be people moving back and forth, right? As they move further away, the cities will realize that, oh my God, they're losing all of the people with talent. They're moving away from this area. Eventually, then they don't want to work here. So they make things more attractive. Maybe there's tax breaks. Maybe they open a brand new plot of land that's very attractive. So people then move back in again. So it becomes this process of re-urbanization. Yeah. So a city is not constant. It will definitely keep changing. The logic behind it is when it changes. So, what are the factors that contribute to it? Just be aware of it. Because as we go through the latter part of our chapter here on urban geography, we'll go into transport geography. We'll talk about the congestion problems. We'll talk about housing geographies. We'll talk about the development of slums and all that. So, when you understand all these factors, you realize, oh, it is an attracting thing. That's why people come in, and then it becomes a repelling thing because it becomes unattractive. Then eventually the government have to do something and make it more attractive again. So that's the process of re-urbanization. So this process that we call this centralization force is where they move towards the center. They move towards the city area. And this decentralization forces is when they move away from the city center. So that's the suburbanization or the counter-urbanization. Yeah, the definitions are all here, but more important, as we went through the previous slide, is for you to know the logic behind it. And I hope you're actively taking notes. Yeah. So this is effectively what will happen as a country progress from a less to more developed country. Of course, this is a very big generalization. In reality, some things may be more nuanced, maybe more unique based on like in a city, in a country, there may be corruption or different priorities, what have you. But assuming everything else held constant, this is what happens to a city. Yeah. So start off with very slow growth, right? People are employed mainly in agriculture. I think you've seen this curve before as well when we talk about your IP2, right? If we talk about the development of a country. Yeah. So as you start off, the rural areas are where the people are mostly not say concentrated in, but can be found in, right? Rural, not concentrated because they're always spread out anyway. As it becomes more and more developed, rapid urbanization takes place, right? Economic development typically concentrates at particular locations because of perhaps the network effect, the ability of things nearby to be able to trade with one another faster. So because of that, they are agglomerated. Yeah, agglomerated means they are concentrated at a particular spot. And when they do so, people are all, therefore the area becomes higher demand, higher land price. People make see that function as more valuable. Hence, urbanization starts to occur. And when they do so, eventually, because of rapid urbanization, most people are now living in urban areas. It will gradually start to become more and more, for lack of a better word, not nicer, right? As they move in more and more, there's more congestion, there's more overpopulation that becomes difficult for them to enforce. Enforcing whatever like infrastructure, how do I say it? Sanitation, enforcing laws, what have you. So there's greater slum being located there. So effectively, then that area becomes less attractive, which therefore leads to the very last stage where eventually it becomes less urban because they start to move away to rural areas or even counter-urbanization where they go completely out. They just want a better view. They're tired on the life of the city, and that's the last stage of it. Yeah, of course, this assumes end goal, lah. But of course, as you know, nothing ends, right? It's not like once you become rich means your life stops, right? As a city's own life, quote unquote, they will also be able to make decisions. So, for example, if they rejuvenate the area, they can go back up. For example, if say a country chooses, hey, you know what, maybe this area is done, let's develop a brand new city center. So then it starts to go down, or another area starts to go through this process. So different countries, different cities will go through this different set of uh similar trajectory, but with slight nuances. Yeah. So again, lastly, as you already know, cities, the goal is for them to provide opportunity for live, work, and play. Definitely work, not an issue. Live is something that is the desired end goal for people to live nearby, keep the land prices high, as long as no slum development happens to repel all the high-end housing, what have you. But yeah, if it's possible to live there, it's always good. And of course, lately, they're creating more opportunities to play. Singapore being a very urban society, very mature urban society, you'll see in our city center, that's where we have civic district where people can come and visit and learn about heritage. You see in the city center, we have the commercial spots like Orchard Road. We have all the big indoor playground right at the what you call it, Marina Square. I think what Kid Marina, I don't know what, but they put that in the central locations so that people will come and play in the city centers. They're trying to make it less of just an economic spot so that it becomes attractive all day long. It's not just during working hours and all year long. Of course, as it continues to do so, it comes with a set of challenges, and the challenges are something that we will learn greater detail in housing and in transportation. So there's more to come. I understand that you will be having your co-op program this week, and you will have your IP3 camp next week. So please enjoy whenever you can, find some time, watch this video. Feel free to pause at any point in time. I hope you manage to record your own notes so that we are ready to move on to the next chapter. Yeah. All right. That's all I have for this short video.